Using SharePoint groups. They control all access to content. Most users have permissions through SharePoint groups rather than through administrative settings. SharePoint creates 3 basic groups for each new site. Whenever a new site is created, you're going to have those 3 groups applied. Visitors going to have read access but cannot change information. Members can view and contribute, which is add, edit, delete, any information that they have permissions to. Owners have full control, view, add, delete, edit web pages, create and delete lists and sites. Owners have full control. They can view, add, delete, edit web pages, create and delete lists and sites. You can add users to these groups by using AD security groups rather than individual AD user accounts. And you want to do that whenever possible. That way, when the membership of the AD security group changes, those changes are automatically applied to SharePoint as well, and that's immediate. When you create a new site within a site collection, SharePoint provides the options to use the same permissions as the parent site or to use unique permissions. If I'm going to use the same permissions, that's going to be inheriting the permissions from the parent groups. So whatever permissions are applied in the parent group will be applied to that new site. I can choose to break that inheritance and use unique permissions to create new groups instead of using the groups provided by the parent, depending on what the security level is and who needs access to that site. If you do decide to create new groups to use unique permissions, you'll have some additional options when you're creating that site. You can choose the groups that you want to inherit. By default, the visitors group is inherited across all sites. This default is based on the assumption that you want to grant broad read-only access to the same set of users in most cases. But again, remember, you can pick and choose the groups you want to inherit. Permission levels. You're not limited to the permission levels that are provided by default. You can certainly create your own permission levels. Permission levels control rights. Default permission levels are full control, as it says, full control across the board to whatever it's been assigned to. Design. It can view, add, update, delete, approve, and customize. Contribute. Can view, add, update, and delete. Read. Read only. Can only view the content, not make any changes to it. And then limited access. Can view specific lists, document libraries, list items, folders, or documents when explicitly given permissions to those items. And these are a good starting point, but most companies need at least 1 or 2 more to handle specific access needs. You may want your site owners to be able to do everything but delete a site, or to create a site, or you may not want them to be able to create SharePoint groups. So you can get fine-grained as to what you want the users to be able to do, depending on what their role is. You can create custom permission levels for other needs. The ones mentioned above, full control, design, contribute, read, limited access, these are a good starting point, but most companies need at least 1 or 2 more to handle the specific access needs. The general need is the ability to add content, but not change it, so you may have an add-only permission level. You may also not want your site owners to be able to change the branding of the site, or to be able to add additional sites because you have a really restricted environment. So it can get very fine-grained as to what you allow your users to do, depending on the role that they play. You create permission levels at the site collection level, and they are available to all sites within that site collection. Libraries automatically inherit permissions from the site that they are in. You typically use sites to control access to content in SharePoint. However, you can also set permissions at the library and document levels. If you don't want to inherit permissions from the site, you can certainly have unique permissions and break the inheritance all the way down to the document level, including lists, libraries, list items, and so on. Let's go take a peek at the groups that are installed by default or that are created by default whenever a site is created. If we click Site Actions, go down to Site Permissions, you can see the default groups that are created. We have Home Members, Home Owners, and Home Visitors. These three groups, well, Members, Owners, and Visitors, are created every time a new site is created, unless you break the inheritance on a subsite. And you'll see that Visitors has read access, Owners full control, and Members contribute. The home in front of Members, Owners, and Visitors, that comes from whatever the site is named. So if you name this IT Operations, it would say IT Operation Visitors, IT Operations Owners, IT Operations Members. If it were HR, that was the name of the site that you gave it when you created it, it would say HR Members, HR Owners, HR Visitors, and so on. And it needs to do that because you're going to get multiple subsites going underneath this, and the groups need to be identified and separated out. So let's say that your boss asks you to set up the security for the root site so that all employees can see all information, admins can add information, and only the HR department, since they own the intranet, they're the ones that are going to be the site owners. And they're going to be able to change the website and configure it, and also determine the permissions and apply those. So if that's the case, then we would want all employees to see all the information but not make changes. So then they would go into the visitors group. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's click on Home Visitors, New, and Employees. We don't want to send a welcome email to all the people in the company, so we're going to deselect that and click OK. And now visitors, all employees, are able to access the site and make changes to it. And if you click on it, it's just going to give you some basic information. Because it's a group, it's not going to do About Me, picture, or anything else. Click Close. If I wanted to remove the user, I would simply click the checkbox, go to Actions, and choose Remove Users from the group. We want to keep this one in here, so we won't do that. Now, all employees now have read access, but we do need some to be able to be contributors, which would be the member role. That's going to be the admins. It's the admins that are going to be able to add the information. So we're going to go to New. Oops. It is going to be IT. I don't think we have an admin group configured in AD. So we're going to tell it IT. They're going to be able to contribute to the site, and tell it OK. And then finally, we want to make it so that some individuals, not groups, would be able to go in and make changes to the site. And some companies will call them site stewards. Some call them site owners. It depends on the business. So we're going to go to Owners. And remember, owners are going to have full control of this site. If a subsite is created and it inherits the permission from the parent, which would be this site, it will also be an owner of that subsite, and so on. So let's go ahead and click New. And HR owns that site, and I do believe that Lisa Stewart and Julie Rise are those individuals. So we'll put Lisa Stewart and Julie Rise. Press Enter to resolve the name. You can send a welcome email to the users, but we're not going to for this exercise, and click OK, or for this demonstration. And now they are owners and they have full control. So let's actually take that a step further and see what happens when we log in as that user. So first let's log in as an employee. I'm going to click the system account, which is what I happen to be logged in because I'm on the server. I'm going to choose sign in as a different user. So we're going to sign in as a user that has read access. So we're going to sign in as Trish Sims. Notice, as soon as I log in as Trish Simmons, I no longer have permission to view the membership of the group. If I click on Home, I can still see everything I need to see. If I click on Site Actions, notice I no longer get that drop-down that has all the options. I can only choose View All Site Content. And if I go to Shared Document, I don't have an option here either to add new content. I can no longer upload content. And I'm very limited as to the options that I have here. No version control, nothing. So as a read access only user, you're going to be very limited as to what you see. And you're only going to see things that you have permissions to. So let's try logging in now as a different user. Let's log in as Brian Barrett from IT, because he should have contribute permissions but not full ownership permissions. I guess it helps if I type the username incorrect. Let me go ahead and retype this. And now Bill's going to have contribute rights. So if I click on Site Actions, you'll see that I get a different, or that he gets a different drop-down menu based on the permissions that he has. He can edit, new page, and view all site content because he does have contributor rights. If we look at the document in what is SharePoint, we have many more options also. So depending on what your permissions are will determine what you can and can't do within the sites. And that will vary per site. You may have full control in one site or group of sites, yet only read access to the intranet, or a site that's limited for you to only have read access or contribute permissions. So let's go ahead and demonstrate how you can inherit permissions when you create a site. So I'm going to, Bill Barrett doesn't have those permissions, so we're going to log him out and sign in with an individual that has full control. Okay. We're going to go to Site Actions, New Site. Title, this is going to be HR. HR Department Site. And for the URL, you want to keep this to most maybe 5-6 characters, abbreviate whatever you have, and no spaces or special characters. And this is going to be a team site. We can choose to use permissions from the parent site or to use unique permissions. If we choose use permissions from the parent site, it's going to pick up the groups that are already there and apply those permissions to this site. Whoever the owners are of the parent will be the owners of this site, and so on. And then once you click OK, the site is created and you're good to go. We're going to choose use unique permissions. And then when we click Create, we're going to get prompted for another page to define what those unique permissions are going to be. So we're no longer going to pick up the permissions from the parent. Do we want to display this site on the quick launch of the parent site? So on that parent site, do we want there to be a link on the quick launch to the HR department site? We're going to go ahead and tell it yes, because it is a department site. Do we also want to display this site on the top link of the parent site, which is this right here? It would be home and then HR. We're going to go ahead and put both on there for now, but you don't have to, just so you can see how it's going to work. And once you get to the HR site, do you want to see the tab to the parent site? When I browse over to HR, do I want to see that tab? We're going to leave this one off so you can see the differences. And then click Create. But because we chose unique permissions, we're going to get prompted with another page. You can pick and choose. We could certainly use an existing group, home visitors that already exists, if we want them to have read access. But we might want to have a different group for the owners. Could be individual users. You will want to limit the owners. You certainly don't want it to be a large group of people that can go in and make changes. So for this purpose, we're going, since they own the site, the group owners are going to be HR. And then tell it OK. Notice that we're creating a new group for HR members and for visitors, because we might want to vary who's going to be able to contribute to the site. It's not going to be the same as what's going to be at the parent site. And then click OK. OK, and it took us directly to the HR homepage. You'll see it looks very similar, and the reason it does is because we use the same template site. But you'll notice it says HR department site and home. Now if I'm going to go back to the root or navigate up, if I click the folder right next to Site Actions, you can see the path that I've taken to get here. We're going to click Home, and that's going to take us back to the parent site. Notice on the parent site we now have an item on this tab for HR, so we can easily toggle over there. We also have another section here called Sites with the link to HR. And you can modify this at any time by going into Site Actions, Site Settings, and make your changes in there. So if I want to go to HR, I click on that site, and here I am. Now let's go look at the permissions for this site. You'll see it's using home visitors, but remember how I mentioned it's going to append in front of the group, the default group name, whatever you call or whatever you name that site. We named this HR, so now it's got HR members and HR owners. It's picked up home visitors because we chose to use an existing group. And it's going to give you a banner here that lets you know this site has unique permissions. At any point, I can revert to have it inherit permissions from the parent, clicking the Inherit Permissions button. Changing inherited permissions may prevent you and other users from being able to access the site. Before you do this, always make sure you have access to the parent site. If you do this and you don't have access to that parent site, you've just removed all your permissions from this site. Let's go ahead and tell it OK. And now you can see we are now inheriting permissions from the parent. Whatever permissions were applied at the parent are now being applied here. If I want to break the permissions, I can simply click Stop Inheriting. What it's going to do at that point, it'll make a copy of the permissions of the parent. It will no longer pick up any changes to the parent, and then you can come into this site and modify those permissions as you please, and it will not affect the permissions of the parent. We can also choose to create additional groups. We are not limited to the groups that are created by default. If you click Create Group, it'll give you a warning because we're in a sub-site. This is using the same permissions as the parent site. The group you create will not automatically get permission to this site. You'll need to do this at the permission site. If you see this and you don't want to break inheritance, go back to the parent site, and we'll do that by clicking on the navigation folder, click Home, and then go to Site Actions, Site Permissions, and we'll create the permissions here. So we're going to create the group, and this group is going to be home, and we don't even necessarily have to use the word home. I'm just putting in there because that's the default of all the other ones. Home additions. This group will only be allowed to make additions. It'll be able to add, but it won't be able to delete or anything else. The group owner is the system account. We're going to change that because that just happens to be what we're logged in as. And I'm going to change it to intranet admin. And we'll put a description in here. So that way when we come back a couple of months from now, we'll know why we created this group. And then who can view membership of the group? Group members or everyone? We're going to leave the default for group members, so if you're in this group, then you can view the membership. If you're not, you won't be able to. And who can edit the membership of the group? The group owner is the one that creates it, or whoever you put in the group owner section. It depends on what the group is for as to how you want to do this, but we're going to leave it as group owner. Allow requests to leave or join the group. If you have email enabled, you can allow requests. If somebody wants to have access, then you would get an email for that. And you can also choose to auto accept those requests if you don't want to get burdened. If it's a group you just don't mind other users getting access to, then you can have it auto accept. To give group permission to the site. For now, we're going to just do contribute, but we're going to come in and change that again here shortly. We're going to create a new permission level and then show you how you can change the permissions of the group. Tell it create. So now we have Home Edition. So let's go ahead and create that permission level for Add Only. We're going to go back to Site Permissions, which we're at. Well, let's go to the root of it. Let's go to Site Actions, Site Permissions. And then up there on the ribbon at the top, you're going to see Permission Levels. Go ahead and click on that. And these are the permission levels that are currently available. If I wanted to change full control or contribute and maybe remove the delete list items, they can contribute, but we don't really want them to delete. We would click on the option, or we would click the link. And then it would come in and we get the option to choose. We can add items, edit, delete items. We would just remove delete items from that group. And as you can see, there are many, many options. It's very fine-grained as to what you can and can't allow. And we'll tell it submit. So now we just changed contribute. They can contribute, but they cannot delete. Let's go to Add Permission Level. And this one's going to be Add Only. And when we come down to the permission items or the permissions that you can include in this level, we're simply going to click Add Items. Anything it's dependent upon, it will automatically check for us. Notice by doing that, we also get View Items selected and View Pages. And we also have to have the option to open it, because we can't add to a site or a list if we can't open it. Click Create. And now we have our new permission level for Add Only. Okay, now let's go modify that group we had added that was Home Editions. And we're going to remove the Contribute permissions and add the Add Only permission level. And to do that, we're going to go to Site Actions, Site Permissions. We're going to select the group that we want to change and add the new permission to, which is Home Edition. And we're going to choose Edit User Permissions. We'll remove the Contribute role, or the Contribute permission, and apply the Add Only. Go ahead and click OK. So now, that group, anybody that's in that group will only have permissions to add content. The final thing we're going to do with the permission area is go and apply permissions to individual items. We've done it at the site level. We've done it at the farm level. Let's go ahead and go back to our root. We'll click the folder next to Site Actions and choose Home. And you'll see that we have the document here, What is SharePoint? If I click the down arrow, I get the option to manage the permissions. And if I click on that, right now it shows me the permissions that are attributed to this document. It's picking up from the parent, the Home Edition Add Only, Visitors Read, Owners Full Control, and so on. I want to change this and just give a couple of people permission to this document. So I'm going to choose Stop Inheriting Permissions. It's going to tell me I'm about to create unique permissions for the document, and this is only going to apply to this one particular document. Click OK. And I want to remove all the groups except for homeowners. And then up on the, I'll select the ones I want to remove, and I'll choose Remove User Permissions. Are you sure you want to remove? Click OK. And now the document only has permissions for the SharePoint Owners group. Now the last thing we're going to do is choose what permissions we want to apply to a specific library. The Shared Documents library can also have specific permissions applied to it. So you can do it from the site level to the document library level to the document level. It's very fine-grained. Go ahead and click on Library on the tab at the top above the ribbon, and you'll see the different options that we have for this library, the different views we can choose. Alert Me, RSS feeds, Edit Library, Library Settings. If I click the Documents tab, I get other options to upload a document, a new folder, and so on. To be able to change or apply permissions to the library itself, I would click on the Library tab, and on the far right side of the ribbon, you're going to see a little icon, and if you put your pointer over there, it's going to give you some information, Library Permissions. Go ahead and click on that. And then I can choose what permissions I want to apply to this particular library. It could be a secure library that I haven't content in there that I do not want to share with anybody. So in that situation, I'm going to choose Stop Inheriting Permissions from the ribbon bar. Click OK to acknowledge. And the only one that I want to have permissions for this library is going to be Intranet Admin. So I'm going to remove all the groups and choose Remove User Permission. And then tell it OK. And now only viewers. We forgot one. Let's go ahead and remove viewers. We're going to click on that and remove user permissions. And then tell it OK. So we've just broken the inheritance from the parent for this particular library, and now only the Intranet Admin user has full control to manage items within that library. However, I can certainly open up one particular document, just like we changed the permissions for that one document. We can do the same and add additional users. We can break the inheritance at the document level and add permissions for individual users or groups, separate from what the library allows. Branding means customizing colors, logos, and layout to match a corporate image. SharePoint controls the general appearance of sites through these features. You can brand a site through site logo settings, themes, and you can also use minimal branding to balance the image needs against the cost of customizing. Customizing can get rather extensive, and it can also be rather expensive, and you want to be careful when it comes to customizing, as it can also cause problems when it comes time to upgrade. It is easy to change these basic elements and get an acceptable result quickly. It is difficult to exactly match an existing design from a non-SharePoint site, such as a public www website. When you apply branding, it is important to balance the need for a consistent corporate image against the cost of customizing SharePoint to accommodate that image. You can do minimal branding without extensive help from design professionals, and there's no cost involved if it's out of the box. One of the first things that you're going to want to do is apply your company logo to your sites to brand them for your company. On the left-hand side of Home, you're going to see an orange icon. We're going to change that to a different logo. And to do that, first we need to upload that logo to the site. There is a library specifically designed for this called the Asset Library, and you can upload your images that you use throughout the site into that and then pull from them as needed. You can also upload them onto the server into the Images folder in the SharePoint root directory. However, if you have multiple servers in the farm, you'll have to copy that image to every server in the farm into that Images folder. For our purposes, we're going to use the Asset Library that comes when a site is created. So let's go ahead and upload our image. We're going to go to All Site Content, all the way down at the bottom on the Quick Launch. Site Assets, it lists all the document libraries that you have here, the picture libraries if you have any lists, discussion boards, surveys, sites and workspaces. You can see that the HR department site is down there and the recycle bin. Let's click on Site Assets, and we're going to add the logo. So we'll browse over to the location, and the one we're going to be utilizing for this demo is the Wombat logo, and tell it OK. Now we're able to add this library or add this logo to our sites. But first we want to copy the link so we can utilize that here in just a moment. So I'm going to click on the logo first to validate that it works, and then we're going to copy the URL. And then click back to go back to your site. To add the logo to the site so it will replace the orange icon up here in the upper left corner, we're going to Site Actions, Site Settings, and you'll see here in the Look and Feel, that's what we're going to be working with here. We're going to choose Title, Description, and Icon. If I wanted to change this from Home to Intranet, I would just simply click on that. I'm sorry, not click on that. I would click on it and then I would change it to whatever I want the new title to be. For the logo, I'm going to right-click and I'm going to paste that URL, and I'm going to click here to test, just to make sure that it works before I apply it. I can enter a description that will be used as alternative text if the picture doesn't display, and click OK. And notice immediately I now have the Wombat logo in the upper left corner. Now the other way that I can modify the look and feel is by changing the site theme. SharePoint comes with some out-of-the-box site themes that you can apply if you don't want to go with the standard. So click on Site Theme, the link under Look and Feel, and then if you click on any of these on the right-hand side, it's going to give you an idea of the colors that are associated with it. And you can click on different ones, and then you can go in and modify it even further by selecting the colors that you want to be represented. And if you want to preview, if I click Preview at the bottom, it looks like my pop-up was blocked. I'm going to right-click on it and choose Always Allow Pop-ups from this site, since it's an internal site. And then I have to start again. I'll click on Convention or Laminate, Mission, and then click Preview. And that's going to give you an idea of what the colors look like. If you don't like the way something looks, but you like the general look, you can certainly go in and just modify that one component. So since it's summer, let's go ahead and take a peek at the summer one. And you can see that it's light green, just changes it a little bit here and there. So you do have some options when it comes to the look and feel. And we'll preview that one. Looks like a colorful one. Well, not too bad. So when you find one that you like, go ahead and click Apply. You can also choose the font for the heading and the body font. And let's go back to Home to see how that looks. And it's no longer just the standard colors. You have a little bit more color with the purple and so on. And you can get as detailed and as colorful as you want. So let's go back to Site Actions, Site Settings, and then to the Quick Launch. The Quick Launch is on the left-hand side. If I click on that, you can see that Sites HR, it shows you the organizational hierarchy for the Quick Launch. If I don't want sites to be up here, I can click on it and remove, I can delete it. Discussions, if I don't want to see the team discussion, if I don't want discussions to be on there, I can choose to delete. This isn't going to delete the discussion list that's there, just the link on the Quick Launch bar if it starts to get too busy and you want to modify it for specific use. I can add a new navigation link. For instance, we could take it external. We could add a navigation link to cnn.com. The heading is going to determine what category it's going to go under. For instance, you have sites, libraries, and lists. We did have discussions, but we removed that. We're going to put this one under sites because it is a site, and then click OK. And now you'll see that we have CNN underneath there. However, it's not very pretty. You can see the URL. So let's go in and modify it again. We're going to click there. And because we didn't put a description in there and we clicked OK, it automatically just put the web address. So we're going to type CNN and then tell it OK. And if we want to change the order, we can simply click Change Order. And we might want to move sites down to the bottom. So that way our libraries are at the top or lists are at the top. We might want CNN to be above HR. And then click OK. So let's go back and take a peek. Now you'll see that sites are down towards the bottom and that libraries are at the top.